If you clicked on this video, you're not alone. I myself also am wondering where my shipment is through Asendia. And if you're a seller or a buyer, this video could be good for you. So stick around through the end of the video. Let's talk about your experience right now, as in you bought, let's say you're a buyer and then you actually bought something from a online retail shop or retailer, anywhere, any platform, Etsy, eBay, retail shop, and then somehow they ship through Asendia and you are expecting the shipment or the parcel fairly soon, or it's supposed to arrive at the expected date and it did not arrive, and then you're wondering where is it. Google, and then you go through the many bad ratings that is shown on Trustpilot, which everybody is, I myself included, have actually gone through the bad ratings of every single experience of every seller and buyer of using Asendia. And I'm just gonna tell you that it's not what it seems. Basically, in short, is it really bad? Let's put all things aside and then just tell you that overall, when a person needs help, with something, they usually Google. It's the simple truth. And usually, bad experience will be publicized more often than not than good experience. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of the shipping company. This is purely my experience using the Asendia service. I paid through for it because I'm an eBay reseller. Primarily use eBay to resell my things. And one of the methods, or sometimes, I will see what courier services are cheap. Hopefully this helps you as a buyer or a seller, and whether your shipment arrives or not on Asendia. First up, very first thing is, yes, it is slow. Can take as long as 30 days. Can be as long as 2 months. That's how fast Asendia is. Because why? It's a forwarding service. I believe this business has been around since 2012. It's established between the partnership between Singpost and French La Poste, meaning this is considered their economical way of shipping item tracked. So bearing that in mind, there are a lot of businesses that are trying to cut costs. They will most likely use the cheapest rate while getting it tracked, so that you can have a peace of mind that the item is on its way to you as a buyer. As a seller also, as long as it's trackable, you are still safe. It usually goes through a few shipping services. In Singapore, where I am based, it's usually through Qxpress. I'm not sure who is also using Asendia. You can comment down below your experience, but usually in Singapore, Qxpress, this year, they have actually switched over from Singpost Direct to Asendia. What I mean is, you go through Q10, you click on Q Delivery if you want to use their delivery service. They ship internationally. Qxpress, by the way, again, I'm not sponsored, but I'm telling you right now, I've actually stopped using Qxpress, but of late, because I was checking on rates and I realized Qxpress is actually cheaper to ship more heavier and more bulkier stuff. My experience, likewise, if I ship a 4 kg or 5 kg item, it's $50 cheaper as opposed if I were to go through speed post using even Postal Connect. It's that cheap. $50 is really a lot. So with that in mind, it actually goes to Asendia. Then Asendia will forward it to another service in that locality. Let's say for this shipment that I sent, I'm going to show you how I did it. I went through the Q10 website, go through Qxpress, paid for the shipping, and then somehow it's very convenient now. You don't even need to wait for the pickup guy. You can actually drop off at any of the locker box that is situated around Singapore, which is quite convenient. Of course, there's a certain height space constriction. My box, which is 4 to 5 kg, is kind of the max that you can actually fit. Anything larger than that, as with the video suggests, it will not go in. But generally, anything small size you can. So if you're a seller in Singapore or someone who wants to ship overseas, be it to your friends, relative, or as a business, you should use Qxpress for the time being. Of course, if you have someone that is regularly picking up your mail, then so be it. But for first time users or eBay, I'm not sure about Etsy. I think Etsy is also using Asendia, but for those who are starting off, you should try to use Qxpress. It's okay for now. Why I say that? Let's carry on. Asendia, it's slow. Yes, it's slow, but partly because it forwards to a few services before it reaches the destination. So there's reason to believe that it will go haywire after that because too many cooks spoil the broth. So at the very least, if it's that long, 30 days or more, and it's still not received by the buyer, or the parcel is untrackable, it's not moving at all, then basically contact Qxpress. In Singapore, Qxpress or whoever is partnering with Asendia in your locality. As a buyer, if it takes that long, yes, it can take that long. I'm so sorry, but because Asendia is the cheapest way for us, business, we do want your parcel to reach you as quick as possible, but because Asendia, it can take that long. And usually, for my case on eBay, I actually state that it can take that long. Contact the seller, contact the person that you bought from, and then he will help you sort it out. Then of course, as the seller, you contact whoever it is. If you are a seller or someone who wants to ship internationally, should you even use Asendia? In my experience, I would say yes and no. Yes, because it's cheaper. Like I mentioned earlier, it's way cheaper. $50 comparatively against others, like Speedpost. In Singapore, Speedpost, which, if it's a larger size box, you can't go by e-pack anyway. It has to be delivered. You do need to figure out how much you want to ship it out to. There are many bad ratings, and I believe there are many shipment through Asendia that has not been reported that it's delivered. My experience may be the exception. If I have any other issues going forward, I may do another video, but at the moment, I believe that as long as there's tracking number and the other reasoning coming up later, it should help you as a business owner. Why I even thought of using Asendia, it's not because I really wanted to use Asendia. It's because I wanted to use Qxpress. And Qxpress, again, was charging a much lower rate versus what I would actually go through to Speedpost, go to companies, Postal Connect. But it is cheaper. But I didn't realize that they actually switched from Singpost to Asendia until I received the tracking numbers. The tracking numbers were a bit odd. They were not directly Singpost tracking number or the 9-digit tracking number, So that in mind, I had to relook and see where it was going. And then with the long tracking number, the vendor tracking number, okay, there's actually two tracking numbers. One is the main tracking number by Asendia. Then of course, there's the second tracking number, which is the vendor tracking number. That tracking number is the actual one that you should use to forward to your buyer or forward to the platform that you are tracking at. Because for eBay, it needs to get delivered. As I mentioned in my videos, I'll point it over here, that you need to have a trackable number so that it at least minimize any issues when there's a dispute. Qxpress, they insure their parcels at $300, up to $300, which is more than what Speedpost does, which is only $150 right out of the gate. So you're actually spending lower on the rates, the shipping rates, and you're getting insurance that's higher. That's for Qxpress. So that's the reason why I use Qxpress. Then of course they use Asendia, so I have to track, with Asendia. Asendia, it's a little different. Asendia, the website, you can track with their main and the vendor account, but it does not really track that accurately, I will put it, because once it's en route to, let's say for my case, it's supposed to en route to US, and then it shows some vendor that is not USPS, but I know through the many tracking numbers that is put on the ratings for the Trustpilot for Asendia to trace to help with the customer service, I realized that usually if it's going to the certain country, it's the local post office that will pick it up. For instance, USA is by USPS, Australia is Australia Post, and so on and so forth. So the one that's shown on Asendia, IBC or UPS, technically it's not right. What I would suggest is you track as a seller or even a buyer, track it through the local post office and then forward to whoever is concerned. The other thing is you can use the tracking number, the vendor one especially, with using Parcel app or 17 Track. These two websites you should use to track if you're a business owner. Website to track and then see where it lands. If it lands at the certain destination, then I am right. If it's not, then whoever's picked up that parcel, that tracking service, you should use that website to track. Is Asendia really that bad? International shipping, like I say, it takes 30 days. eBay in particular, what I usually do is I will put it under economy shipping from outside US as an option. Why? Because that option against the rest of the other options, it drags, sad to say, it drags the timeline for delivery, which helps you as an international seller. So if there's any dispute, at least it gets pushed further so that you at least have time for the delivery to receive. That's the reason why I actually am okay with this shipment, which is this buyer bought my item at $500. So that's the reason why. And of course with Qxpress, which insures at $300, I was kind of okay to use Asendia and then just see where it moves, so to speak. And rightfully so, this time it actually was delivered on time, even earlier than what I was usually expecting. The issue right now is if it gets lost, again, I mentioned to you contact the seller, and the seller who's has a parcel that's lost, you should contact the courier service. This one may not work, but for international shipments other than US, the rest all need some tax ID, tax reference. It's a given. Everyone has a need for a tax reference, and for somehow Asendia Shipping, you cannot put the tax ID or reference on the label, sad to say. So that one you can try to put it on the address. It may or may not work. So that one you have to bear that in mind. I have customers or buyers that complain to me that it doesn't really help them. They still have to pay tax because it's not declared properly under the declaration from the CN22, I will put it. So you may wish to avoid using Asendia altogether if that country, they need to pay tax, so to speak. US, they don't pay tax because we have an agreement with Singapore. Pros and cons. The pros, it's cheap and the tracking works. It does work. Just that whether it reaches you is another problem altogether, especially the vendor tracking number. The cons, it's slower than usual. The possibility of getting it lost may be higher. It's not guaranteed. My case, again, my one example, it shows that it does get delivered, and I've tracked all the rest of the other tracking numbers that was shown. Usually it gets delivered somehow or other. It may take longer than usual, but it gets delivered. So you have to try and taper your buyers or even the platform's expectation, which is not easy, but I understand where you're getting at. So the help desk is non-existent. These are the cons. The help desk is non-existent. That's why everybody's going to Trustpilot to get some answer, and then somehow Asendia is responding over there. So which is kind of odd. In Singapore context, if you are a Singapore seller or someone who is based in Singapore and then you want to use Asendia or Qxpress, will you consider using Qxpress? For my case, yes, I will. But not every time, sad to say. Some countries, I'll be honest, I don't even ship to, whether by Qxpress, Asendia, ePack, courier service, maybe, but courier service is so expensive anyway. So that's why you can't send to them because you will eat up into your profit. The issue is I don't ship to a lot of countries. That one I specified in another video over here. That was a very old video, but it's still relevant. Then of course there may be issues with custom duties for certain countries, because Asendia Shipping, the label, you can't put the tax ID or reference in it. Comment down below if you actually have found a way to put it there. I can't, so that's why there are customers, or there are some ratings on Trustpilot that shows that it's not delivered or is stuck somewhere because of custom duties. Then the need for tax declaration. That one again is I talked about it back then. So yeah, these are what my findings are, my thoughts on the matter. Asendia isn't that bad. It's cheap. It is cheap. So my advice is you should taper your buyer and your own expectation. If after 30 days it gets lost, contact the relevant parties, so to speak. So don't fret. Asendia Shipping is legit. Yeah, you might be worried your parcel is lost. Track with the relevant websites and seller to you, another seller. If you're watching this, just don't panic. Just check, and then if really worst come to worst, contact Qxpress. Asendia, not so much. I'll catch you on another video. If you find this useful, do share with any of your friends, relatives, business partners that are using Asendia or using Qxpress in Singapore. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you around. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.